What is up, everybody? Happy Sunday to you. The world is still crazy. The world is still crazy, and I am still praying for God's kingdom to come on this earth. But until then, right, you know, being separate from the world, but still existing in this world is one of those sort of perplexing things that we all have to contend with as believers. And so, I pay attention to what's happening in this world. And so, again, I like to reiterate that I am politically and socially neutral at this point in my life. And for me, I will take my chances with God's kingdom because there is nothing in Satan's world for me. I am just trying to survive at this point. So, with that being said, though, I'm looking at first of all, I want to say I apologize. In my last video, I was talking about the shooting of Sonia Massey. And I started off saying the woman's name, Sonia. And then for some reason, I had talked, and I know what it was because I had talked to a lady named Sandra the day, like literally hours before I did that video. And she was such a dynamically sweet person. And so I think she was just imprinted on my brain when I did that video. But I do apologize to the family of Sonia Massey for messing up her name, just renaming a woman. And I apologize for that. And I do pray for them to have peace and healing during this time of mourning. And again, I feel like that whole situation was very senseless, but most things in Satan's world are senseless. And again, I think that anybody who saw that video has every right to feel however they want to feel. And I don't think that people like Candace Owens are in any position to tell Black people how to feel about things like that. But off of that, I've been thinking, and I do that a lot. Black people can't think. They don't read books. Yes, we do. But I have been thinking, and I think a lot about just world events, how things are playing out, and really just kind of all the moving parts sometimes. And, with the Trump assassination, in my mind, I'm like, this is Trump. Trump got it. Like, I mean, honestly, they tried to kill him. They've already vilified him by weaponizing the legal system against him. So I felt like that was like really that Trump got it moment. Like he had it. Like it was just kind of signed, sealed, delivered. But then after the failed assassination attempt, you had the Biden card Biden pulls out, and then they prop Kamala. Now, again, I think Kamala was always the card to play, right? I think that, again, in one of my other recent videos, I talked about how they used that same strategy. Biden ran for president, I don't know how many times, and failed, right? It wasn't until he became Obama's VP that now all of a sudden he was a serious consideration and he was able to get that Obama base, right? Same thing with Kamala Harris, right? They're using that card where she was Biden's VP, so it just makes more sense for her to be the next president of the United States. And obviously they are going to use her race, her gender, all of those things to prop her up. And those are usual suspect things for the Democrats. And so that's why I was in the mindset that they weren't going to necessarily work this time around. But leave it to the Republican base to essentially help the Democrats out. And that's why I feel like there's so much controlled opposition in these parties. But I'm listening to the rhetoric of the Republicans and some of their talking heads, their pundits, and they're talking about this Willie Brown thing, and she dated Montel Williams, like, so what, and they're basically kind of trying to frame her as like this woman who sleeps her way to the top. And, here's the thing. That would probably sell better if Kamala Harris was not married. Like some man married that woman. She is a married woman, right? And, so with that being said, I don't know how that's going to sell over time, and people might start getting a little irritated. And when I talk about people, I'm really talking about, certain demographics that are going to vote for Kamala Harris. So when I think about who's going to be on team who, right? Kamala Harris definitely will have some of the Asians. She will definitely get some of those Asians, especially the Asians who have dealt with some level of racial discrimination, right? Because the Republican Party, right, it's giving white supremacists. It's not giving inclusion. When you think about the dominant faces who are talking on behalf of the Republican Party right now, these people are giving hyper racist, hyper bigot. And that's a turnoff to a lot of minority groups. So even if Trump isn't out there reflecting that, you have people who are gravitating to you that absolutely do. And so you become guilty by association, really. And so I think that is really what's going to happen with Trump. They're going to use his base against him. And unfortunately, the Trump base is just leverageable on so many different levels, because despite the fact that they want to believe that Black people are unintelligent and hyper emotional, many of them are unintelligent and hyper emotional, and many of them, like, I think they're like literally lemmings. Like, they talk about the Democratic side, but there's a lot of lemmings on the Republican side as well. And I think what the Republicans have learned to do is take those same liberal strategies of leveraging the media, and they've propped their talking heads. They've propped their people like, your Candace Owens and, your Charlie Kirks and stuff like that, as this movement, as this voice. So they're mobilizing the same way that Democrats have. And you really haven't seen that since Donald Trump. So there's a lot of strategy with this whole MAGA movement. And, I think that Democrats I think that it's threatening, because they can't use a lot of their same usual suspect cards, because the Republicans are really, meeting them at their own game, and in some cases beating them at their own game, because you hear a lot of these Republican voices, like, despite the fact that you have Instagram, you have all these other platforms, right? They understand that they have to be Republican friendly. They have to be Republican base friendly, because really the Republicans are the ones with the money. And I think if people learned anything from the Anheuser-Busch debacle, is that people will respond with money. These, money and finances have been weaponized in this country in so many different ways. It really is. They really have been weaponized in this nation in so many different ways, right? And, it's interesting to me how, we the people, have been so demonized by a lot of these structures that, some of us really fail to see the power that the people really have. And, the same way that finances are weaponized against political enemies and in different countries via sanctions, right? They can also be leveraged against the system. And I think that was the real pause for the elites in so many different ways, because it's like the people can actually tank companies, right? If we push the people too hard, they can actually tank companies, right? And I think that was a wake-up call for a lot of these people out here, running around with all these manipulations. And again, money talks. Money talks. Money talks. And for those people who are obsessed with it, right, they will do anything for the money. So Trump is talking about that he wants to be the Bitcoin president, right? Which, I look at this, you look at Bitcoin and the Bitcoin craze. Democrats have never had a problem with it. You had some Republicans, conservatives who jumped on it, but they were apprehensive. And because really the conservative base has a lot of buying power, right? They can definitely dictate how far Bitcoin goes. And so you need a president like Trump really, on the mic talking about, I'm going to be the Bitcoin president. And because a lot of his base look at him as a god anyways, right? I am not giving financial advice or recommendations to anybody. Let me just put that out there. I'm just making commentary on some things that I observe. But Trump is an interesting player in this whole scenario, right now. I think that a lot of people look at him as a god. And I really do think that Trump is not the person that his base really thinks he is. I heard this thing. It's so funny. He's been cosplaying to the Christians. And, I've heard Christians make conversation about what Trump is. Trump a Christian? He says he's a Christian, right? And, it's interesting because I was looking at this video came across my feeds of Trump. And I don't know here it is. Trump. And so it says, Trump tells this Christian crowd that he's not a Christian, but they need to vote, vote, vote. And don't worry, they won't need to do it. Like, listen to this. Hold on. This is on X.
You won't have to vote anymore, my beautiful Christians. I love you, Christians.
Let's go to the beginning.
And again, Christians, get out and vote just this time.
Just this time.
You won't have to do it anymore. 4 more years. You know what? It'll be fixed. It'll be fine.
Whoa. I mean, here's the thing. It's like, I really do. Like, when you talk about, I was reading the Revelation last night. I wanted to just go to Brother John. I'm like, okay, I'm missing something. I'm going to read this book all through until I don't miss anything. But I caught some points. Every time I read it, I always grab something new. And, he's talking about the Antichrist, and I don't believe that Trump is the Antichrist. I do not believe that Trump is an Antichrist. I believe that he is a part of the rise of the Antichrist, right? And when you think about sort of what's going to be a reality for the world during the reign of the Antichrist, obviously he is going to force people to take on a mark, people of all ages, right? And their hands are on their foreheads. And that can mean a lot of things, right? But you kind of got to look at where the world is going to. We are in the era of transhumanism, right? We are in the age of digital ID and barcodes on your armrest, right? And, when you think about the people who have the mark in their head or in their hands, it can be literal and symbolic, meaning that through their deeds, right, or through their mental disposition, they demonstrate that they have the mark of the beast. So a lot of these hyper-politicized individuals who claim that they are of God, but they are patriots to a demonic nation that's run by Satan, that's an indication that, there's a mark of the beast. But let's get back to what Trump said. He's saying that the elections, you won't have to worry about voting again. The elections are going to be fixed, right? So whatever political structure that comes into America at this point on, right, there's not going to be another election, according to Trump. There's not going to be another time that we will have to go through this selection process, right? And I can, I do believe that in a couple of years ago, the conservatives were, bitching about the fact that the Democrats had the same type of mindset, right? That they wanted to fix the Supreme Court, pack the court so that we never have to have elections again. And so, we are entering into this era, right? Where we are going to have a dictatorship, people who have morals and values and they are actually holding firm to the Abrahamic faith, they're going to be compromised at every institution of their lives, right? And, this is where, being close to God and really relying on Him to sustain you, making sure you have that manna. No, you may not be eating steak during the era of the Antichrist, but you will be sustained. And I think that's what it is. And I think right now, I think a lot of people are trying to hold on to this idea of America that is dead. Like, Trump is not about to come in to restore America. Trump is coming in to bring in the next era of the financial systems, the next era of humanity, and that is control. The America was like the last free world, if you want to think about it, because we have this constitution that is ensuring certain freedoms and rights and basic human rights. And now we've seen this infiltration of individuals who have degraded almost every fabric of this nation institutionally, ideologically. And now they're going for the universal thought, right? They're setting up the mindset that different mindsets, different positions, individualism is bad. And you must fall in line. There is no fighting back against, not being a lemming. You're either going to be a lemming or you're not going to survive. And I see things like this sort of on the brew. I think that, emergency usage solution that they were mandating people to take at the company level, and the government and the companies, they were in coordination. That was just really a test to see, what the populations would do, how desperate they would be to survive in Satan's world. Would they comply, or would they stick to their principles? And a lot of people, they didn't want to lose their jobs. They took the solutions, and some of them ended up losing their lives or having really adverse effects. So very, very unfortunate. Getting back to Trump and Kamala, I don't feel like it's a landslide for Trump. I really do believe that somehow Kamala Harris is going to win. Somehow I believe that Kamala Harris is going to win. Trump has been setting up, Iran is trying to kill him. And that's going to be interesting because, why would Iran try to kill Trump? I don't get that. I really don't get that. But there's things that are being kind of set up and creeped in that I'm just sitting up here like, we had an assassination attempt on Trump and it was failed, right? So he's going a distance. Biden drops out. Kamala's propped up as the president, the Democratic nominee. This is going to be an interesting election cycle. I think this is going to be an interesting election cycle, but I have a prediction that Trump is not going to win. I have a prediction that it is going to be set up where Trump is not going to be the next. It's going to be set up for a lot of people to believe that it's a landslide. It's going to happen. Trump got it. But I think at the end of the day, Trump is not going to win, and it's going to be freaking chaos in this nation. It's going to be chaos in this nation like we've never seen before. And I think this is what they want in a sense to really bring in martial law, right? They need a reason to control the populations, and in the name of safety and security, right? They're going to create a scenario for that to happen because people are going to be tired of the chaos, right? We're going to be seeing some very extreme things, people killing children. Just, we're going to see a lot of things. I feel like if Trump loses, we're going to see chaos. We're going to see chaos in the markets. We're going to see chaos on the streets. And if Kamala wins, right? I mean, if Kamala loses, we're not going to really see that, right? We're not going to see that chaos. We're not going to see the chaos. So it's really like, you know, if the elites want chaos, that's what we'll have. But if they want peace, then they're not going to coordinate to sabotage Trump. But I think that they're going to coordinate to sabotage Trump. I really do. I do. That white horse at the Olympics, the Satanic Olympics, and let's talk about that for a second. I mean, they can't stand Jesus. They can't stand him, but they will literally make time to mock him. It's like, if I can't stand a person, I'm going to stay far away from them. They're not on my mind. They're not on my radar. I'm not going out of my way to mock them, antagonize them in any way, right? If I can't stand a person, right? Now if they try to be petty, that's a different thing. But these people can't stand Jesus, and they just go out of their way to mock him and mock Christians. And, it's like, it's such an indication of the sign of the times, right? And, again, we're being set up for the spirit of the Antichrist, right? And so that's what we're seeing right now with the Olympics. Like, this is supposed to be a showcase of the world's best athletes, and yet they open with such a demonic and sacrilegious opening that has nothing to do with the Olympics. Has nothing to do with the Olympics. And that's why I really do feel like the fallen angels were the dumbest of the angels. They were the dumbest of the angels. Like, and I don't know if it's possible for God to create stupid angels, but I really do believe that, because emotions, like irrational emotions, can make you dumb, right? Because you're not running on the highest intelligence that one can run on, which is emotional intelligence, right? So I just think that the fallen angels were dumb, and the humans that they influence on a daily basis, they're also really, really dumb as well. So, I pray for everybody. I pray for everybody. I pray for those true believers of the Abrahamic faith to just keep your faith, keep your prayers up, read the word, understand what times we're living in, and, just rely on God to give you the strength, the direction to carry you through. So I hope everybody have a wonderful, wonderful week. I will catch you on the next one. Let me know what you think. And if you like content like this, discussions like this, subscribe to the channel. And if you want to comment on a time in which you would like to meet and do a live stream together, we can do that too. I may do one today because I did promise one today, but Sundays are like my housework day, man. It's like after I get off here, I got to